What's a real-life event that feels like a horror movie? Woke up at like 3 a.m. to what sounded like someone slowly dragging something heavy across my kitchen floor. I live alone. Lay there frozen for maybe 10 minutes before working up the courage to check. Turns out my fridge had some mechanical issue and was making this awful grinding noise while vibrating just enough to inch itself across the linoleum. Nearly peed myself before figuring it out, and then had to push a 200-pound fridge back into place at 3 in the morning. Getting lost in IKEA when I was 8. My mom was looking at sofas, and I wandered off to see the cool bunk beds. When I realized I was lost, every aisle looked the same, and all the adults were these towering, faceless strangers. The overhead announcements sounded like they were in slow motion. I ended up hiding inside a wardrobe, crying until an employee found me. Still get anxious in big stores. Driving home through rural Pennsylvania at midnight during a thunderstorm. My headlights caught this weird figure by the road. Wasn't quite animal, wasn't quite human. Then my radio started cycling through stations on its own, just white noise and fragments of songs. Next day, I found weird scratches on my passenger door that weren't there before. Still can't explain. Working night shift at a nursing home. Power went out during a storm. Emergency lights came on, but they were dim and cast these long shadows everywhere. Had to check on all the residents with just a flashlight. One old lady with dementia was standing in the hallway in her nightgown just staring at the wall, wouldn't respond when I talked to her. When I touched her shoulder, she just whispered, "They're coming back for me tonight." I nearly quit on the spot. Getting an MRI. Having to lie perfectly still inside that claustrophobic tube while it makes those hellish mechanical noises for 45 straight minutes. The technician gave me headphones with music, but they didn't work right, so I just heard muffled banging and whirring the whole time. Started imagining I was in some alien abduction scenario. Had a full panic attack, but couldn't move or call out. My sister's wedding was at this old converted farmhouse. During the reception, I needed air, so I went exploring the property. Found this old barn that hadn't been renovated. Inside was this collection of antique dolls arranged in a circle on the floor. Super creepy on its own, but when I went back 20 minutes later with my brother to show him, they were in completely different positions. Never ran so fast in dress shoes. Parent-teacher conferences. Had to tell these perfectly normal-seeming parents that their kid had been writing disturbing stories about hurting the class pet. The whole time I'm explaining, they're just smiling and nodding, like I'm telling them their kid got an A. Then the dad says super calmly, "Oh, he gets that from me," and just stares at me. Had to act professional, but I was terrified. Asked another teacher to walk me to my car that night. Getting my wisdom teeth out. Anesthesia didn't work right. I could feel everything, but couldn't move or speak to tell them. Felt like being buried alive while someone drills into your jaw. Wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't respond. After it was over, I just sobbed in my car for an hour. The surgeon didn't believe me when I told him later. Hiking alone and came across a completely abandoned campsite. Tent still up, cooler full of food, camping chairs around a dead fire. Even found a phone still charging from a portable battery. No people anywhere. I called park rangers thinking someone might be hurt. They found the owners hours later. Family had fled in the night after a bear encounter. But those minutes before knowing that, pure horror movie vibes. My boyfriend's sleep paralysis episode. I woke up to him making this weird gasping noise. His eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling, totally terrified. When I touched him, he grabbed my wrist so hard it left marks, then started whispering in a language I'd never heard before. Lasted maybe 30 seconds, but felt like forever. Next morning, he had zero memory of it. We broke up 2 weeks later for unrelated reasons, but honestly, I was relieved. That time my 3-year-old daughter stood at the foot of our bed at 2 a.m., just staring. When I asked what she needed, she whispered, "The old lady in my closet wants to talk to you, Daddy." Turns out my wife had been reading her Hansel and Gretel before bed. Still checked that closet with a baseball bat though, not gonna lie. Getting stuck in an elevator alone for 3 hours between floors. The emergency phone wasn't working and my cell had no signal. The lights kept flickering, and it would occasionally drop like half an inch with this horrible screeching noise. Started hallucinating that I could hear whispers coming through the walls. Maintenance guy who finally rescued me said I was white as a sheet and talking to myself. Driving home from college during winter break. Got caught in a blizzard in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. Had to pull over at the only motel for miles. Place was practically empty except for this one really off employee who kept staring at me. He insisted on walking me to my room, which was at the very end of the building away from everyone else. Didn't sleep a wink, pushed a dresser against the door. Left at 5 a.m. even though the storm wasn't fully cleared. My cat woke me up at like 4 a.m., standing on my chest, staring over my head toward my bedroom door. She was doing that weird Halloween cat pose with her back arched and first standing up. When I turned to look, nothing was there, but she kept growling at the empty doorway for like 5 solid minutes. Then she just plopped down and went to sleep like nothing happened. I did not go back to sleep. IT in a hospital basement. Had to fix a server at like 2 a.m. The basement has these long, poorly lit hallways with pipes running along the ceiling. On my way back, I swear I saw someone duck into a doorway ahead of me, but when I checked, there was nobody there. Then the overhead lights started turning off one by one behind me, like something was following me. Turns out it was just the new motion sensor system, but I ran all the way back to the security desk. Kayaking on a foggy lake early morning. Could barely see 10 feet ahead. Suddenly heard splashing nearby, but couldn't locate it. Then this massive shape emerged from the fog. Turns out it was just a moose swimming across the lake, but for those few seconds my brain was convinced it was some lake monster coming to drag me under. Paddle back to shore so fast I nearly flipped my kayak twice. At my grandma's funeral, we were all standing around the grave after the service. My 4-year-old nephew suddenly points at the open grave and says, "Who's that man standing in the hole with Grandma?" Everyone just went silent. Later he drew a picture of the grave man who had no face. Still gives me shivers when I think about it. Working in a hospital during Hurricane Sandy when we lost power. Backup generators failed on certain floors. Had to manually ventilate patients while carrying them down 9 flights of stairs in pitch darkness. The stairwell echoed with this weird moaning sound from the wind through the building. Found out later some patients in other hospitals didn't make it. Still have nightmares about those stairs. Car broke down on a back road in rural West Virginia. No cell service. Started walking to find help and came across this tiny gas station that looked abandoned except for one flickering light. Inside was this ancient man who just stared at me without speaking. When I asked to use a phone, he pointed to a rotary phone on the wall that was not connected to anything. Just walked out and kept going another 3 miles to the next town. Bartending late shift. Last customer wouldn't leave at closing. Just sat there staring at his empty glass. When I finally told him he had to go, he looked up with these completely empty eyes and said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" Turned out he was my childhood neighbor whose son had gone missing 15 years earlier. He thought I was his son all grown up. Completely heartbreaking and terrifying at the same time.